Well, Houston, we've been through a lot together. We started in radio 60 years ago. It was such a great gig, my father cautioned me against going into this thing called television, but we did it, and we had a pretty good run. We even went from black and white to color TV, then to high definition. I keep hearing about streaming and digital, and, well, it's a chance to reconnect with my friends and viewers and share stories from our times together throughout these last 6 decades. What do you say, Houston? Let's do this. Hello, friends. I'm Dave Ward, and welcome to Dave Ward and Friends. This is a series of casual conversations with people I have met and friends I have made over my 60 years in Houston broadcasting. And I've got 2 real legends with me today. Please say hello to Bill Worrell and Calvin Murphy, both Houston stars, famous with the Houston Rockets. You guys have been around each other and working with each other for so long, but Bill, you're retired now, right?
I just retired this year.
Well, so we're both retired broadcasters.
Yes, indeed.
How's retirement treating you so far?
It's been great, Dave. This is the first show I've done.
First piece of work you've done.
This is the first time I've been on the air, so this is great.
But I remember remarking about your blue eyes. You've got the blue, there are only 2 men I have met in my life that had blue eyes like that. You and the famous movie actor who was also a car racing
Paul
nut.
Newman?
Paul Newman, yeah. You and Paul Newman have the bluest eyes in the world. What has it meant for you to spend your life and your career in your hometown, covering and broadcasting for your hometown teams, even your alma mater?
Yeah, I consider myself really to be a very, very lucky person. It is very hard to do that. As you well know, once you get started, I started at Channel 2, and you had already been at 13 for a while when I got into Channel 2. So I was there for about 10 years, and I learned with Ray Miller, and I was there 10 years, and I didn't know how long I would be there. And then I got another job offer from the Rockets after I left Channel 2, and I stayed with the Rockets. I did the Astros for 20 years along with the Rockets, and they just kept offering me a job. And every time I would possibly interview somewhere else, it just wasn't going to be as good as what I had at home. So I just never left. It's kind of interesting.
Well, let me ask both of you. What kind of satisfaction does it bring to you to know that when thousands on thousands of Houston sports fans recall some of their favorite memories, they're hearing your voices in their minds and they're reliving some of those moments?
Well, first of all, I got to say that I'm very, very fortunate and honored that I got to know and meet Bill, because he's the one that got me involved in TV. Never had I envisioned on being on TV until Bill came to me and said that he thought I could, be pretty good at it. And I took a shot at it, and it worked. So for people to come up to me now and say they remember the days when Bill and I would do this or say that, and then we had the people would bring us cookies and brownies to the game, where they had actually put a barrel out at the escalators to take all the food that people were bringing. Yeah, so it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling to know that we impacted so many people's living rooms.
And how lucky we were, Dave, to have players. We had Akeem Olajuwon. We had, you can
Clyde
name
Drexler,
them. Clyde Drexler, Yao Ming. We had these terrific athletes that were getting on these late night shows. So if they hadn't have been great to start with, our voices wouldn't have been carried or chronicled or kept in the libraries as long as they have, because they keep trotting out these great players, and our voices are on those calls. And so you just thank those players. You were fortunate enough to be there when they won championships.
Don't forget, the one fella that really got us going was, he's on TNT right now. I don't even want to say his name. He's on TNT right now. and Big Chuck.
Oh yeah, Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was the one that used to keep us in trouble.
Oh yeah, he would come to the back of the plane, sit with us. He said, "Y'all are more entertaining than the players are." That when he was here.
Well, let me ask both of you this: How do you manage to be a professional and being objective while still being a fan of the teams that you're covering?
Well, we weren't too objective. we wanted the Rockets to win.
Absolutely.
But we also understood the fact that we were going into some other markets. NBA television wasn't around when Calvin and I started, so we were going only to our market. So 99% of the people watching wanted the Rockets to win too. So it was only natural that we would pull for them. But then when NBA TV came along and our games were being broadcast nationally, then I would have to say to Calvin, we have to be a little bit more objective tonight in the call because it's going to other regions of the country. And that's the way we played that.
You know, one of the problems I had was I was such a Rocket fan that from time to time, Bill had to remind me that I was working. He says, "Calvin, you working tonight or what?" You know, the game's going on, and he's asking me questions, and I'm yelling at the referees or the players of what's happening on the floor. So I was definitely a homer, so Bill had to keep me grounded to let me know that we did have to, every now and then, say something good about the other team.
Well, let me ask both of you this. What's your favorite, very favorite moment in Houston sports history?
Wow.
Well, for me, I have to go back to 1968. And it was the game in the Astrodome. UCLA was undefeated, had won 48 straight games, I believe. They had Akeem, it was Lou Alcindor at the time, and became, Lou Alcindor became
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
And so he played with UCLA against the University of Houston. As it so happened, it came in January. University of Houston was undefeated that season, number 2 in the nation. UCLA was number 1. They'd set this game up 2 years before. They didn't know how many would show up. Standing room only, 55,000 people showed up for that game.
In the Astrodome.
And it was in the Astrodome, and it was the first nationally televised basketball game of all time. Eddie Einhorn did the production. And I remember when they were trying to sell the game, Roy Hoffines was in there, who was the major domo at the Dome, and he was trying to figure out a way, and he wasn't sure it would work. He held up his baseball, and he said, "I don't know that basketball, if they'll be able to see it on television or not." And Guy Lewis said, "Well, Judge," he said, "they see that baseball on television, and this basketball is a lot bigger." And it ended up being the turnaround for basketball, not only here in Texas, because this guy was setting all kind of collegiate records. Calvin was up at Niagara, and I remember you probably watched it on TV.
Absolutely.
But it was really the turnaround for all of college basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
That was the greatest time for me.
Well, you know, with me,
And our 2 championships.
Oh yeah. Besides that, yes. Besides, you know, when I was in high school, the great Guy Lewis tried to recruit me to play for the University of Houston, and I can remember distinctly at the Madison Square Garden, the University of Houston came down to play in the Holiday Festival, and of course, you know, my high school coach brought me to the game. I met Guy Lewis and the players, and I remember telling Guy Lewis that I was not coming to Houston for any reason. You know, my mind was made up where I was going to go and whatever. And of course, now I've been here in Houston where I was never going to come for 52 years now. And every time Guy Lewis, God bless his soul, used to see me, he would hold up 4 fingers and saying, "You know, you owe me 4 years, you little midget." If you had come out and had my championship, and I spent the rest of my time with Guy Lewis apologizing. So one of the greatest feelings I had is when he was enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame. It couldn't get any better.
Well, let me ask you both. Who's your favorite player?
Oh, wow. You go ahead and take that one.
Well, one of my favorite players was Calvin Murphy, because that's when I first started. I mean, he was a highlight reel. I mean, if he wasn't punching a 6'8" guy in the head, he was going in for little baby jump shots. But my favorite player of all time is Akeem Olajuwon, because I've never seen as great a basketball player and as great a person, a guy who turned his life around completely after he left the U of H. He really absorbed his religion and became a great man, not only on the court but off the court, and led us to back-to-back championships. And he's the greatest player in Rockets history, in my humble opinion. I don't, you?
Without a doubt, I'm still in awe of the game that we called when he had his quadruple double.
Oh gosh.
That was something that was special. You don't see that too often. And the fact that we had the opportunity to call that game, and of course, we didn't call him Elijah, we called him the Dream. And that night was so special that I think there was only, 18,000 people at the game, but I've heard 100,000 people tell me about that game. That's how special it was.
It's only been done 4 times.
It's only been done 4 times. So without a doubt, but then my close second has got to be Yao Ming.
Yeah.
The first time I met Yao Ming was at the Compaq Center, and through his interpreter, he asked the interpreter, who's the little short guy in the funny suit? How do you meet somebody for the first time and talk about his clothes? So from that point to the time he left Houston, we became great friends. Every time I asked him to do something, it was a yes. I did the Yao Ming roast. I had Basketball USA. He came out and talked to the kids. I can go on and on and on, to the point when he would see me, he'd run the other way, knowing I was going to ask him for a favor.
Yeah, he would be a close second on me too, because when he first saw Calvin, he didn't know what to make of it. I mean, he's been in China his whole life. He says, this guy's jumping all around talking to me. And Calvin needed an interpreter, basically, not just Yao, because they couldn't understand each other, but they were grinning from ear to ear, so it was fun.
Well, besides Hakeem the Dream, who do you think is the best talent the team ever had?
I think that championship, it would be between the first or the second championship team, because when Otis Thorpe was with the Rockets, they won a championship. And then when Rudy felt the team at midseason wasn't playing as well the next year, he traded Otis Thorpe to get Clyde Drexler. And that team won a championship in a different way. So talent-wise, it was basically the same 2 teams, except switch those 2 players.
They had so much talent on both of those teams. When you start talking about championship, Olajuwon obviously was the ace in the hole, but everybody contributed to both of those championships. Kenny Smith had the 7 3-pointers in one game, and then Clyde would do something, Otis Thorpe would do something.
Robert Horry.
Oh, Robert Horry.
Sam Cassell won us a game in Game 3 at Madison Square Garden.
Amigo did also.
Yeah. They were here, Mario Ellie with the Kiss of Death shot in Phoenix. So all of those guys played on the same team, and they all contributed at one time or the other, and that's what made it so special. And don't forget Vernon, the first year of the championship, Mad Max, Vernon Maxwell hit some crucial shots in that first championship.
Mad Max was so good. I don't think he understood how good he was.
No.
When I talked to players around the league, especially when we talk about the Bulls matchup, and they said the Rockets could have never won the championship if Jordan was still there. But Jordan told me himself that when he had the matchup against Vernon Maxwell, he would get him an afternoon nap because he knew he had hell on his hands.
Let me tell you a little funny story there, Dave. We're playing in San Antonio, and we have to beat the Spurs, and Vernon wants the shot. He always wanted the last shot. He didn't mind if he missed. He didn't mind if he was one of those guys. That's why he always made them. But he hit this fall-away jump shot to win the game. And as soon as the ball was going in the net, my partner, Calvin Murphy, jumps up and jumps over the table to go out there and celebrate with the team, forgetting that he was broadcasting the game with me. Ripped off his headset, ripped the cord out of the deal, and the next thing I know, I'm saying, well, there's Vernon Maxwell and Calvin Murphy celebrating the victory. He was already out on the court, and we were in the Hemisphere Arena, remember that?
But that's what I was telling a minute ago when I said, periodically, I forgot that I was a broadcaster, not a fan or a player. I got so involved in that game when Vernon took the shot, as soon as it left his hand, being a former shooter myself, I saw the rotation on that ball. I knew it was going in, and as it was in flight, I jumped over the table and hit the nets. I'm gone with all the wires following me on the floor, and Bill is trying to get me back to the table.
Didn't work.
Oh, boy. Well, talking about those magic moments, unfortunately, we never got to see a Rockets-Bulls NBA final,
No.
Hakeem versus Jordan. How do y'all think that would have turned out had it happened? Both of you.
Well, first of all, if you look at the regular season matchups, the Rockets always won those games because of the matchups, player to player. And the one thing that the Rockets had, of course, that they couldn't guard was Olajuwon. He was their ace in the hole. Jordan, of course, everybody talk about him being the greatest to ever do it, but we had someone that could neutralize him defensively. But they had nobody to stop Olajuwon. So in my opinion, there's no way in the world at a 7-game series that they could have beaten the Rockets.
Yeah, over that 3 years against Chicago, we were 7-3 against those, or 7-2 against them, and in the regular season. So I really think it's unfair to everybody just say, well, if Jordan had played, they'd have won another championship. I think if you really talked to Michael, he would have said that would have been his toughest matchup. Absolutely. Because they had no way to stop Hakeem.
That's just like saying if I was 7 foot tall, I'd still be in the league. That's that type of a situation.
Yeah. Well, it's been a rough stretch for some of our home teams in recent years. How do you feel about the present and the future of the sports landscape in Houston?
I think it's exciting. Astros could very well go to another World Series this year. The season's not over. They're 22 games over 500. They've been 20 games over 500 without Bregman and without some of their key players for long stretches of time. They've got good pitching. So I think they're very healthy, and I think they'll be around for a long time. The Rockets are reloading. That's what happens. But they had the greatest first-round drafting that I've seen in the NBA in the last 25 years. They got 4 quality young players, all 19 years of age, and can play. So I think the Rockets now are about 2 years away from being back in the playoffs in the NBA. And, for the Texans, and I almost called them the Oilers, Dave, for the Texans, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm sure it'll be bright. They have a lot of number 1 draft choices coming up. They have a good young quarterback out of Stanford. And I know I could tell a lot of Dave Ward stories about the Oilers days. But when you and Ron Stone and Ron Franklin and all of us covered the Oilers in those great days. But I think the Texans are going to get back, and they'll be okay. But we have a great fan base in Houston. So I think that our teams will always excel here. We have good owners, too.
I think that's the key, the fan base. Houston has been so fortunate to have great teams, both in college and in the pros, that they're antsy. They expect to win and they want to win. So with that being said, that they're a little impatient right now. But if you look at where the Houston base is reloading in all the sports, if they just be patient, the glory days are coming back. I look at the Rockets, for instance, right now. I'm looking forward to broadcasting this year. They got a lot of great talent. And the one thing I've always said about sports, while you're trying to win, you've got to entertain. And this is what the Rockets did. They loaded up with a lot of talent that once they get their feet wet in the sport, they're going to entertain. I mean, this boy Green, he's something special. And then, of course, the players from last year, they can shoot the ball. They're very athletic. They want to win. And I think the Rockets are doing a nice job blending, not just grabbing talent, but blending them together, that they're going to like to play together, and that's what helps you to win championships.
Dave Ward and Friends is proud to be supported by the brand new 135,000 plus square foot Porsche River Oaks dealership from our friends at Sonic Automotive. I've known a lot of Porsche owners in my time, and one thing they've told me is that they really enjoy sitting down and specking out the Porsche of their dreams. The newly opened River Oaks Porsche will not only allow you to do that, but Porsche North America has broadened the allocation of all model types just for this new state-of-the-art River Oaks facility. General Sales Manager Carrie Jo McCrory and her entire team are excited to get you into the personalized Porsche of your dreams. It's now open in River Oaks. Tell them Dave Ward sent you. Who was the better baton twirler, you or Marvin Zindler?
You know, me and Marvin used to argue about that all the time. But I'm going to go with Marvin. I'm going to tell you why. Because Marvin was the first national baton twirling champion in the South. People don't know that. He was a national, matter of fact, he won the baton twirling and drum major competition in the same meet. I got a film that I treasure. Of Marvin and I doing an exhibition together with Ben Vereen.
Oh, I was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get excited.
You called Marvin up to the podium to do that with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but Marvin was special. And you know, I got my twirling program still. And Marvin was instrumental in me starting it and keeping it going. So by far, he's the greatest baton twirler as a male to ever come through Houston.
Yep.
And I'm second, close.
Well,
Actually, I got you number one and Marvin second, but that's okay.
in addition to both you and Marvin being twirlers, it's fair to say you've both been Houston fashion plates.
Oh, gosh.
Who was the better dresser, Marvin or you, Calvin?
Marvin had a little more class to his wardrobe, I guess, than I did. You know, it's funny. My wardrobes were created by this man right here. Yes, Bill, you're the reason.
I don't want to take any blame for that.
I'm gonna blame you. I'm gonna blame you for my.
Well, tell the story right. Okay.
I'm gonna tell it right. First year I started broadcasting with Bill. They tried to put me in a blue blazer. Calvin Murphy in a plain blue blazer.
Because that's the way we dress: blue blazer, gray slacks.
Well, it affected my personality. I don't know why, but it.
You were dull.
You know, Bill would ask me a question, and I would say, like, theoretically speaking, I think you're right, Bill. And Bill looked at me like, what's wrong with him? So when he found out that it was my wardrobe, he told our producers, you know, let him wear what he wears. So I put on, you know, my flavor, and then I became Calvin Murphy. And as people got accustomed to it, and I started wearing different things, he would egg me on to outdo the one I wore last game. And it got to the point now where people were calling in, telling me what they wanted to see me in and what they didn't want to see me in. Forget about the broadcasting, it became the clothes show.
Yeah, it did. You know, people wanted to know what he was going to wear next.
Yeah.
But I knew it unlocked his personality. When he started in that blue blazer, Dave, he was nothing. I mean, he was a washout. He'd have been gone in a week. I went to our bosses. I said, hey, you got to let him be Calvin Murphy. This guy I got right now is a little too buttoned down for the NBA. So he had a closet full of clothes, so he went and got them, and the rest was history.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people in Houston would like to know who your tailor is. Who makes your suits?
Sure, Valentes of Memorial City Mall does all my clothes. He actually invented me. You know, we met back in about 21 years ago, and he told me he'd make a deal with me. If I wore his clothes, I could have them free. Well, if it's free, give me 3. So from that point on, Valentes of Memorial City does all my clothes, and he enjoys coming up with these various styles. Now, there's actually some outfits that he came up with that I wouldn't wear, believe it or not. I've said no to a couple of them, Bill.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
How many custom-made suits do you have?
Oh, wow.
Oh, 2 closets full.
God. Yeah, wow. You know, I would imagine I got over 200 suits.
He tried to get me to come out there. And I said,
You're a big chicken.
I
I tried to make you an honorary brother, and you wouldn't do it.
No, I said 2 of us together, the TV wouldn't have been able to handle that. I kept my blue blazer, Dave.
Could you see him in a pink suit?
Somebody had to be buttoned down.
Talk with me about your relationship with Rudy T. I mean, for decades, each of you were faces of the franchise, first as teammates, then in different capacities. After your playing days, how special is it to have that sort of connection with a colleague over such a long career?
Wow. Rudy Tomjanovich and myself, we became the salt and pepper of the NBA. That's what they used to call it, salt and pepper. When you saw one, you saw the other. I lived next door to him for 18 years. I roomed with him in the NBA, of course. During my playing stint, we had roommates. I roomed with him for 10 years, and I'm the reason he was successful because I got him out of bed. His daughter is my godchild. My son is his godchild. That's the kind of relationship we had. We've been through the good, bad, and the ugly together. The greatest moment we had as friends, as teammates, is when he asked me to be along with him and Olajuwon to present him to the Hall of Fame. And I'm an emotional guy anyway. And to be up there with him in Olajuwon, to have him enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame, I will never, ever forget that.
Yeah. Never.
Because that told me right there how he really felt. See, you can fake feelings for people, but when they ask you to be with them at their most important moment in their career, and you're up there with them, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. We spoke with Rudy before his Hall of Fame induction, and he told me you were roomies for quite a long time.
Yes.
In your memory years as Bill's broadcast partner, do you have a favorite memory that sticks out?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of them. But before I even get to that, I've got to publicly thank Bill for allowing me to be his partner. The reason I say that is because a lot of professional basketball players, when their days are over with, their history. Mm-hmm. Bill gave me a chance to still be Calvin Murphy in another direction, and it doesn't get any better than that. But to answer your question, the night we were in Indianapolis,
oh God,
got to be the one that stands out.
That was one I was going to say.
The Rockets and Indiana Pacers got into a heated basketball game, and then there was one call that the Indiana fans took exception to, and they started raining quarters and dimes down.
Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller
thought he got fouled.
Well, I think he did, but nevertheless, the fans started, throwing coins down on the floor. And, from as high as the arena was, those coins are coming down. When they hit you, they hurt. I mean, they could have done some damage. Well, it happened to have rained that day, so there was a lady sitting in back of us, and she had an umbrella. So I grabbed her umbrella and opened it up and put it over Bill and I, and the coins, you could hear him bouncing off the umbrella.
Yeah.
So I saved his life.
Well, I'm telling you, Dave, those coins hurt. In fact, some of the people in the rich seats were throwing quarters. The other people throwing pennies and everything, but these things were hurting.
Yeah.
And every year, ESPN uses that highlight.
Yeah.
Whenever Houston's going to play Indianapolis, they say, remember when Murphy and Worrell were caught in a rainstorm indoors.
Of course, we were under there dancing too while the coins were coming down.
That lady was a little upset, but you had to give that umbrella back.
Oh, absolutely. After the game was over with and they stopped throwing it, I wasn't going to give it back before then. Nothing personal with her.
That was a great one. There's no doubt about it.
Let me ask you both, who's your favorite Rockets player? And Calvin, you can certainly say yourself. But over the history, who's been your favorite player?
Wow. There are just so many, Dave. Some of them, they've all meant different things to me during the time. My first year was 1980, and I did the games with John Egan, who was a former Rockets coach and had played for 10 years, 11 years in the NBA. Well, we didn't have a real good team. Would we go 40 and 42?
Yeah.
40 and 42, 2 games under 500, which normally doesn't get you in the playoffs.
And it had to win the last 7 games to get that.
That's right, and we eased into the playoffs and ended up in the NBA Finals. And the team we had to beat the first round was San Antonio Spurs. They had George Gervin. And this guy right here, he and Gervin in a big Game 4 at San Antonio, Gervin threw up 40, was it 42 or 40?
41.
41, yeah. And Calvin threw up 42.
Right.
And hit a big shot there from about, 30 feet?
Yeah, it was a lucky one, but it went in.
So I'm thinking to myself, man, this NBA stuff, this is my first year. This is easy. We're going to the NBA Finals, which didn't happen for a long time after that. But he became my favorite. And then later on, I think Moses Malone was one of my
I forgot
favorites.
about
Big
yes.
Mo didn't say a lot, but when he did, everybody listened.
Yeah.
Keem Olajuwon was one of the great ones too, and Mario Elie has always been one of my favorites, and of course Clyde Drexler for what he did at Houston with the Cougars, and what he's done with the Rockets, and he had a great career at Portland. So I can go right on up all the way, but those were my favorites.
Well, with me, because the respect that the players have given me over the years, every one of them, I mean, they've gotten me spoiled. They treated me with such royalty that every single player, I had a relationship from the 12th player to the number 1 player, and I love them all because they all fed into my ego. They really did, And I enjoyed being around them. I don't know why they used to pick on me because I'm the nicest guy in the world. But but the fact that every time I would talk to them, they would talk to me like I was the Michael Jordan of basketball or the Wilt Chamberlain type of situation. So every player that ever came through the Rockets has become my favorite.
Yeah. Well, you recently had some longtime records broken by James Harden. What are your thoughts about him leaving the team, and have you spoken with him since he left?
I have not spoken with him since he left, but when he was here and he broke my record, I took that real personal.
Oh, you were pulling for him all the way.
I've always said, if somebody was to break a record of mine, I want it to be somebody of quality and not accidental. And believe me, he was somebody of quality. The night that he broke my record, it was inevitable. We saw that from the first shot he took to the last shot he took. You can just, as an athlete, you can feel when another athlete is in a zone. And to be honest with you, there was 2 or 3 other times that he could have broke it, that he backed off. But that night, there was nothing he can do. There was a couple that he threw in. I don't think he meant to throw them in, but they went in anyway.
They went in anyway.
Yeah, but of course, I teased him about breaking my record after he broke it, and I told him, I said, you do realize that record stood for 40 years. And I said, we'd have a 3-point line, and I didn't shoot all the foul shots you did. But other than that, congratulations. But in all sincerity, I had no qualms at all with him breaking that record because of the ball player that he was here and that he still is in the NBA.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the one player today that you would most like to have been able to play alongside?
Oh, that's a good question. In today's game, wow. I got to think about that one. There's so many good ones out there. Any player that I want to play alongside is somebody that could help me win a championship, so it would have to be a center. I would have loved to play with Olajuwon, no question. I mean, I could have been, the skies could have been the limit with the fact that, and I played with Moses, who was a tremendous player within himself. But playing alongside Olajuwon would have been something very special. But in today's game, I think it would have to, in all honesty, it would have to be
LeBron, maybe?
LeBron. I guess it would have to be LeBron because he is the NBA right now. Yeah. He's definitely the player that has made stars out of his teammates.
Is there any one player you would have liked to have played against?
Well, where you come up with these hard questions?
Well,
I tell you what, I would have loved to have played against Jordan.
yeah.
I would have loved to really see, watching him play is one thing, but actually being out there and trying to stop him is another matter entirely. So I think Jordan is the player I would have most liked to play against.
Let me ask you both, how do you feel about the state of the NBA today? How much more different is the game now than from your playing days?
Well, of course, I didn't play, but when I first came up, the game had a lot of big men, a lot of 7-footers, and they played mostly in the paint. They didn't shoot. There wasn't a 3-point shot when I started. There was at the end of 1980, so there was a 3-point line, but it was a big man-dominated game, and there wasn't a lot of room in the paint. The only way Calvin got off shots was he'd come off a double pick at the top or something. He'd get to the free throw line and stop, and nobody could stop on a dime like Calvin. So he just had that little 11-foot, 10-foot jump shot that he could put in, or he could drive the length of the bucket. Then as the game expanded and the big guys became almost extinct. What happened to them, Calvin? All the 7-footers we had in the 80s and 90s started to disappear, and they started coming up as young players and developing skills of dribbling and shooting the three-point shot, so that the NBA then gave the impetus to the offense and took the defense away, so that it became more of an open court game. And now all the young players are coming up are shooting three-point shots. There's not a lot of action down in the paint anymore. It's a more wide open game.
Well, it's unfortunate. I don't believe I could have played in the game the way it is today. Basically because...
Oh, you'd have been great in this game.
Offensively.
No.
Offensively.
No.
But defensively...
Well, they'd have given you help.
Well, but defensively, you can't touch anybody.
Yeah.
I'd have stayed in foul trouble. They'd use my size against me in today's game. Today's game is either a three-pointer or the dunk. The middle distance game has really been taken out of it. It's starting to come back a little bit more now. But I preferred yesterday's game to the game today. Today's game, like I said, is more entertainment. During our era, it was more of a purity game. You can see things developing in situations like that. I would like to see the game go back to a little more physical, but I understand why they took the physicality out, because people were getting hurt and things of that nature. But if you don't touch some of these players defensively, with the forearm and things of that nature, you're not going to stop them. Curry, they're never going to stop him unless you can put your hands on him.
Yeah.
LeBron, you're never going to stop him as big as he is unless you're able to control him a little bit. So the game today would be difficult for me defensively. Mm-hmm. Offensively, because of my speed back in the day, as soon as I make that first step, you touch me, I'm going to the foul line where I wanted to live anyway.
Mm.
Looking at it all, your career, your family, friends, relationships, what does the city of Houston mean to you, both of you?
I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut. I lived there for 18 years. I come to Houston and I've been here 52 years. Mm-hmm. So that tells you, the people, and here again, you go through your good, your bad, and the ugly, as I said earlier. But overall, the people in Houston can't never get rid of me. they got me so spoiled rotten, that even during your bad times, people were good to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
The people in Houston are unique. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. They're unique. When you go through your bad times, they're willing to accept when things change. Uh-huh. And because of it, I've had my family, mom and them talk about coming back east. I said, the best thing you can do is come out west, because it's not happening. Mm-hmm. I'm here for the duration. As long as the Lord gives me breath in this body, you're stuck with me, Big Dave.
Okay.
I was born and raised here. I went to Lanier Junior High School and I went to Lamar High School, both segregated at the time, which I'm old enough now, at 77, to be able to say that I lived and went to school in a segregated time. Mm-hmm. I went to the University of Houston mainly. Well, they gave me a baseball scholarship, but mainly because they were integrating that first year that I went there. Mm-hmm. And I had a chance to see Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney in their first year as freshmen come on campus. I had a chance to meet black people, which I really, outside of my interest in music, and Calvin and I have had a great interest in the same, in the music and musical interest. You could go down to Alameda and find a lot of places where the black entertainers would come through town and play. So we had that growing up, and I had a little band in high school, so I had an interest in the music and the fact that I was able to experience and branch out and not just go to school with white people, try to get different experiences. Yeah. So that was great, and then my job kept me here. But I can tell you one thing, if you need anything, if you are in need of any kind of goodwill, Houston is the place to live. This place takes care of its own. And I don't care what color you are, who you voted for, it doesn't make any difference. When there's a flood, when there's a hurricane, anything happens, we take care of our own. And I'm a proud Houstonian, Dave, and I really believe in that.
So am I.
Yeah, I know you are.
I got to tell this last story about Bill. You know, when he started talking about segregation, my mother is from Hallsboro, North Carolina. And of course, you know, there was segregated as she was growing up and things of this nature. She grew up and she played basketball with Althea Gibson. They played on the famous Bomberettes together. So, but she grew up in segregated South. And so it was funny, when my mother first met Bill, you know, she said to Bill, she says, boy, you're pretty good looking for a white guy, you know? And that's been because my mother, yeah. I said, Mom, you know, but my mom grew up in the segregated South, and she never really spoke to a lot of Caucasian people, whatever. But Bill, with those blue eyes, she got smitten. And when she said, you know, she said to Bill, you know, you're not bad looking for a white guy. I want to crawl underneath the floorboards.
You know, there was another unique thing too, Dave, about our relationship is we could talk about those matters, and we did during games in a fun sort of way. Right. Like one time I talked about a shot being a Negro knuckleball, like Joe Negro threw the knuckleball and everything, and Calvin said, Negro knuckleball. Well, I said, no, I didn't say Negro, I said Necro knuckleball. But I mean, we would bring up things like that during the telecast, give and take, and I think it was healthy because we got so many letters from people who said they just enjoyed us getting right on the fringe.
Yeah, you know,
not quite.
Our producer, we keep their finger on that button, you know, the Tenderlay button. You know, when I started speaking, I could see.
Well, we were the first real major league team that was black and white.
Right.
And we flourished. We had the top ratings for 10 years
It broke my heart
the
when it
sports
was
market. And the fact that we can make fun and have a joke on each other, and mainly it was better if the joke was on Calvin.
But people would truly ask me, you know, do you and Bill really like each other? I say no, but he's my boss.
Well, I think they knew it.
In an earlier interview several months ago, I was interviewing Dan Pastorini for my podcast, and I asked him, you're originally from California, you moved to Houston. Why did you stay in Houston, make Houston your home? And he said, one reason, the people.
Yep.
Yeah.
The people of this area are the kindest, most giving, most caring people I have ever met anywhere.
He's right.
And I think he's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for taking this time to be with me here today. I have enjoyed this more than I can tell you, and I hope our viewers have too. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to Dave Ward and Friends. Yuval Michler of Texas Mattress Makers immigrated to Houston when he was 18 and is a shining example of what makes Houston so great. It's the people. He's doing great things for our community. Here are a few words from him.
If you spend your money and you buy things that are from outside of your community, you're basically taking the good that you can do in your own community and you're distributing it to other places. At Texas Mattress Makers, we make mattresses where we all live. Foam we buy from Brenham, from Waco. Our springs come from Ennis, Texas, which is south of Dallas. Lumber comes from Louisiana. Cardboard from Houston. Plastic from Houston. If I take my money and I spend it overseas or wherever else, I basically stole someone's job here in Texas or Houston. I'm always going to have our community in my forefront when it comes to business. At Texas Mattress Makers, we're the only team in Houston with our own factory.
Get your best night's sleep with up to 30% plus free delivery on select mattresses.
We do one thing. We create the best mattresses in Texas.